All right, greetings YouTube visitors and brothers and sisters in Christ. You know, we're hearing a lot of propaganda from Communist News Network, or I mean CNN, that Trump's idea of arming school teachers is a bad idea. It's ridiculous. It's insane. But is it? Isn't that what Israeli pilots are armed? I think Israeli pilots are armed to prevent hijacking. And what about Walt Disney World? Don't they have armed security to keep the tourists and the visitors safe from some catastrophe, like some idiot with, that would want to become a mass shooter or mass murderer? No, it's not. It's not idiotic at all. In fact, I don't believe in free gun zones. Because what happens is that the shooter or potential shooter or murderer will go into those free zones to commit the crimes that they know they can get away with because people have no guns in those areas. It's illegal to possess them. So I'm a strong advocate of our Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms, which is a constitutional right, God-given right, basically. I mean, Jesus told his disciples to take a sword in a particular passage in the Scripture. So I think we can justify the use of self-defense and deadly force when necessary. After all, man is required and commanded to love his wife as Christ loved the church. How are you going to love your wife and protect her if somebody breaks into your home and you don't have a gun? And the potential robber or rapist wants your wife and wants to kill your children or kidnap them. I mean, this whole argument is idiotic. So instead of blaming the murderer, the mass shooter, or the FBI in this recent situation in Florida, we want to go after the guns and have tighter gun control. This is what the liberals want, most of which are Democrats. Let me read something from R.E. McMaster's The Reaper, this newsletter here. He says, this is from the Ron Paul Institute, actually. He says, quote, "Those who think that giving federal authorities greater surveillance powers might prevent mass shootings should consider that the FBI has been alerted that the latest school shooter had made Facebook posts and YouTube comments talking about his intention to be, as he put it, quote, a professional school shooter, unquote. But the Bureau failed to properly investigate the tips. If the FBI fails to stop someone who openly boasts about their intentions on social media, why should we believe that giving them the power to snoop on every American would increase our safety?" Very good. And there's more here, but I just hit a button and I kind of lost the story. Let me see if I can find it again. Here we go. Okay. "We cannot stop tragedies like this by banning guns. We need to look seriously into the psychotropic drugs that more and more Americans are being prescribed. We need to demand that our elected representatives demand a real day of reckoning at the FBI," unquote. So says Dr. Ron Paul. More gun violence article, dated February 19th, 2018. You might want to look into MK Ultra and mind control, because sometimes our government has been suspected of taking particular individuals and foisting upon them some type of mind control. And I've heard this before. I haven't really investigated it that much, but it's not beyond the realm of possibility, certainly, to get their agenda promoted, which is to take our guns. And why would they want to take our guns? Don't they really? Isn't their real motive to make the United States more safe from these shooters? No, it's not. It's actually to foist upon us a totalitarian regime, a communist regime, kind of like China has, and kind of like Hitler had. I mean, let's face it, all the dictators in the world over the last 70 years had one thing in common. They believed in gun control. Mao Zedong, Pol Pot, Hitler, Stalin, Lenin, all of them. Here's a little note. "A man kills a lion in Africa and people blame the man. A man kills 2 reporters while doing a live broadcast and people blame the gun." Yeah. Now here's something, another thing that's interesting. The United States is 3rd in murders throughout the world. But if you take out Chicago, Detroit, Washington, D.C., and New Orleans, the United States is 4th from the bottom for murders. Believe it or not, These 4 cities also have the toughest gun controls in the United States. They have the toughest gun control laws in the United States. So that's not the solution. Idi Amin was another mass murderer. Gaddafi, Hitler, Castro, Stalin, Kim Jong the second. I mean, they all believed in gun control. Brutal dictators, mass murderers, totalitarian regimes, okay? And of course, you look at the United States, we are a form of totalitarianism where we think that we have a democracy, but really, we were never set up as a democracy, but as a republican form of government, the rule of law. And who rules the United States today? Well, the CIA, the Pentagon, the National Security Association, the NSA, and most presidents have been puppets, doing what they're told. Otherwise, they're taken out like JFK was. Here's the editor's note. Already in the United States, police, schools, and parents are stopping school attacks across America by taking the threats seriously, reporting them, and quickly arresting the students before there's ever a massacre. Socialist, feminist, nanny state New Zealand has some of the strictest gun control laws in the world. And the world's most isolated nation, ringed by oceans. And yet all the gangs of New Zealand have all the illegal automatic firearms and weapons they could want. And the police steer clear of them. What I observed when I attended school in Texas and Montana is that each household owned and possessed on average 7 guns and knew how to use them. They kept their firearms unlocked in their homes, in their cars, and pickup trucks, and it was no big deal. Firearms were just another tool. No one ever thought about it or talked about using a firearm to shoot another human being unless they invaded their homes illegally, of course. All of their guns were recreational and used for sport, plinking, duck and deer hunting, and the like, and in a life-threatening emergency for self-defense. A non-issue since everyone was armed. The first week of deer season, the junior high school and high school emptied out of young men as they were out deer hunting with their fathers, getting meat for their family table. Excused absences. Many pickup trucks had a gun rack on its back window. Yeah, my grandfather used to have one. And I'm sure he was a believer in the Second Amendment, although he tended to be liberal on some things and a Democrat. Never really talked to him about the matter, but anyway. Containing 2 to 3 rifles, and this truck was parked at school, at the post office, in town, everywhere. I never once knew anyone who was shot with a firearm accidentally, much less on purpose, save one mentally disturbed, off the track bipolar kid who shot his parents. Firearms were part of the nuclear husband-wife, children, family, and local community. But these were real families with real mothers and fathers, with real Christian values and real communities in. And today this still exists in northern Italy and in Switzerland. Hitler did not invade Switzerland in World War II. Why? Because he knew he would be facing not only the Swiss army, but the entire armed Swiss population. And the Swiss are taught to assassinate the leaders of their enemies, to cut off the head of the snake. So Hitler would have been facing a civilian army of assassins, not worth the cost of risking his life. Hey, the Swiss Army Chief, Lieutenant General Andre Blattmann, in 2016, after evaluating the migrant invasion of Europe from the Middle East and Africa, this New World Order sponsored cultural Marxist/multicultural invasion, which is leading Europe towards civil war, publicly told the Swiss general civilian population to, quote, arm yourself. Okay? And then here's another point by the editor. The whole world today is ruled by the bankrupt rise of socialism called democracy. Democracy leads to socialism, which leads to communism, according to Marx, Lenin, and Stalin. The only nation that is not disarmed yet is the United States. Disarmament is a necessary prelude to totalitarian/tyranny. After that happens, then, in the elite's 0.01% New World Order, everyone gets microchipped like cattle by 2030, and all personal property rights are eliminated in their global collective. according to UN Agenda 2030. Then by 2045, with everyone depolarized and universal multicultural communist, brown, and AI robotics replacing well over 80% of human labor, with many transhumanized, over 5 billion of redundant mankind will be holocausted. Humanity as we know it will be toast. History. If these psychopathic ruling billionaire oligarchs, their transnational corporations, central banks, and military henchmen get their way, they, the elite, the 0.01%, plan to be able to live eternally by then. Red China is the New World Order government/corporate model. How do you like the future? Isn't it wonderful? Is that the kind of world you want to live in? Now, I never read Huxley's Brave New World. A lot of the brighter students in high school did. You know, they were the students that took calculus and trigonometry and physics and chemistry. You know, I never took any of those courses. I was kind of average. I mean, I got B's and some A's, maybe a few C's here and there, but never took those tough courses. I was really interested in them, per se. I was never that good at math. But, you know, that was one of the books, The Brave New World, that my English teacher recommended, and I should probably go back and read that. I did read 1984, not back then, but before 1984. I read that. About Winston Smith and the future, and you know, thought control, hate speech, and so on. It's happening now. I mean, we're here. 1984 arrived rather late, but we're there. We're in a surveillance state situation now, and we got security, you know, at the airports and so on, and it's all contrived. I mean, the whole war on terror is a fraudulent war cooked up by the establishment, the New World Order elites. I mean, if you study 9/11, you'll see that it was an inside job, and that our government has lied to us. But the official story has so many holes in it that it's really pathetic. And you just need to look at some of the YouTube videos and do your own research. That there's no way that Middle Easterners, you know, Arabs or Muslims took box cutters and hijacked a plane. Okay, it's ridiculous. There were explosives in there. And Building 7 came down, and it wasn't even hit by any airlines or any planes. And if you look at the Pentagon, you'll see that there was no shape. The shape of the Pentagon didn't even resemble the fact that a jet might have hit it. No, probably a missile. And of course, the tapes were confiscated that got it all on camera, and it was filmed, and they were only released later. But you don't see any plane at all. You see a flash of light. So our government clearly is not telling us the truth. They want to keep us in ignorance, and they want to feed us a lot of propaganda through the major news networks like CNN and MSNBC. Now Fox Network is more on the conservative side. So if you're going to listen to major news network or mainstream media, listen to Fox News Network, and you just got to seek out the truth. You know, this channel is going to give you a lot of truth, and because I subscribe to an expensive newsletter to get the correct information. You're not going to get it for free all the time, although you can get it for free right here at LA Street Preacher channel. All right, well, that's it, and I'm probably going to put up another video by Ben Shapiro on the recent tragic shooting in Florida, okay? Because we're getting bombarded. I don't even watch TV, but I'm sure that this is what's being broadcast a lot. The need for more gun control and poo-pooing Trump's idea of arming teachers. Why is that such a ridiculous idea, by the way? If you have any idea, let me know. Because if I was a potential murderer coming onto a school and I knew that the teachers were armed with guns who might shoot me, I would think twice about going on that campus and even trying to pull something off like that, you know. It's like knowing if every home in America is armed, okay, why would you want to break into the home risking getting killed? You're less likely to do that as a thief or as a robber, right? It's common sense. So Anyway, on the other hand, if you know that you can break into somebody's home using a gun and that they're defenseless, you can rob them and get away with it. There's really less incentive to not pull off the crime. I mean, anything else here? Some things about Syria. What's going on there? I really do think the more I read the book of Revelation that we are near the end of time, and that the escalation of war is one of those signs. Wars around the world. Jesus said in Matthew 24 there should be wars and rumors of war. Of course, that's been pretty much throughout the New Testament, but since the New Testament, since Jesus spoke those words. But have you noticed with the United States armed, we got armed forces all over the world right now as a global military police operation to protect the global interest and the American empire. This to me speaks about end times prophecy, that this is definitely an end time scenario situation that's developed, and something's going to happen this year, I believe. I don't know if it's going to be the stock market's going to crash, the dollar's going to crash, something's going to happen. Of course, interest rates are going up. That could cause the stock market to crash, and inflation will pick up. As the dollar weakens, we're going to see higher interest rates. Bonds will crash. I mean, we're in three bubbles right now: real estate, bonds, and stock market. So that's a precarious situation that's developed. I've been saying this again and again. Get some gold and silver if you don't already have some. Get some survival food, because there could be runs on the supermarkets. Not likely, but it's just always good to have some. I mean, the Mormons, and I don't agree with the Mormon theology, but they have a lot of common sense, and their religion teaches them to have probably water on hand, stored up, certainly beans and rice and things like that. So just if there was a flood or an emergency, or there's a disruption in transportation, the truckers weren't able to bring in the food to your city, you need to think about these things. Just I don't know how much you need. You're wondering, well, how much do I need? I don't know. Maybe 3 months, 6 months, a year. It's not too much. It doesn't cost that much. It's a form of insurance. It's really what it is. So, and it's kind of common sense. What else we got? One little thing here, and I'll end it right there. U.S. forces have attacked Syrian military, reporting over 100 deaths. The Syrian Ministry of Foreign Affairs is calling the airstrikes a massacre, a war crime, and a crime against humanity. The U.S. is an invading, occupying force that is in Syria without permission of its government. Yet, it is claiming that the airstrike was an act of self-defense against an unprovoked attack upon the U.S.-backed SDF, a mostly Kurdish military which had occupied an area of Syrian land. No Americans suffered any injuries or deaths in the attack. The SDF suffered a single reported injury. It's a bit like saying you broke into someone's house and strangled them from behind with a garrote. G-A-R-O-T-T-E. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. In self-defense. Believe it or not, it appears very likely that the U.S. military's latest act of butchery waged upon Middle Easterners on their own land was not about self-defense at all, but about oil. Interesting. Americans like to think of their country as different from those run by military regimes. They are only fooling themselves. Ever since the federal government was converted into a national security state after World War II, without a constitutional amendment authorizing the conversion, it has been the Pentagon, the CIA, and the NSA that have run the government, just like in countries governed by military dictatorships. Oh sure, the facade is maintained, the facade that is ingrained in all of us in civics, in government, classes in high school and college, but just a facade. It's a fake, it's a lie. Unquote. So says Jacob Hornberger in an article titled The Future of Freedom Foundation, dated February 16, 2018.